Good morning, my pretties. So I want to give you something that's extremely helpful in setting the right mind to solve problems, especially the most dire problems that you might have, and also the flip side of that mindset to keep the same problems and to actually make them worse. And it's a very subtle, small, but very big difference at the same time. This comes from my financial mentor and educator, Robert Kiyosaki. He taught me that you never, ever speak the words I can't afford or I don't have time. He teaches me that what that does is it creates a very lazy, poor mindset because you no longer have to think, you no longer have to get creative and get outside of the box and find solutions for your problems, whether it be time, money, or whatever it is. So you never ever say those words because it's poor and it's lazy and it's stupid. And it also creates an enormous income inequality gap that we've created 100%, not the government. We've created that with that kind of thinking. So the flip side of that is to turn your brain on to a rich and creative process that is getting outside of the box and is looking for solutions. So now you have to think and find answers. And it can be a fun process if you learn to find the happiness in that. Basically, fall in love with learning and doing, and you're going to be fine. So instead of saying, I can't afford, I don't have time, you say, how can I afford? How can I have time? What can I do? What has to change inside of me? What do I have to learn? How can I come up with, start asking those kinds of questions. And then you start that search, that process. Just like I did, I'm living it. It's not some positive, empty, feel-good promises. That is actually the difference between the rich and the poor. And when I say the rich, I'm talking about people who have completely detached themselves from money because they've made passive and residual money so that they are no longer chained and shackled to the dollar anymore like everybody else. Whether you're a high wage earner or a low wage earner, that's poor because you're still shackled to the dollar. Rich people are asking, how can I? Poor people are saying, I can't afford, I don't have time. People that are constantly being pushed around by their time and every minute of every day is accounted for, they say, I don't have time. They're poor. They're totally chained and shackled to the dollar and other people's demands through the dependency of money to pay their bills. And that is a poor concept. It's a lazy concept. Even though they're extremely busy physically, some people are intentionally busy physically so that they can be lazy in dealing with the things that are really important, like solving time problems and solving money problems, which typically go hand in hand. So that is the big difference. Even before you can even find any solutions, your problems are going to perpetuate and get worse, or you're going to get rich and creative and find solutions. So unleash the power of your human brain, open it into a beautiful, rich, and creative mindset that's looking for solutions, and you'll find them. Every time you'll find them. It might take some time, sometimes more time than others, and sometimes you may have to make mistakes more than others, but be willing to make those mistakes and learn. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, and eventually you'll hone in as you keep going and you're searching for answers, constantly asking the question instead of making the statement. I hope that makes sense. Feel free to share this. And my website is fireyourboss.xyz. That's not a .com. Don't go to .com. That's different. It's .xyz. Fireyourboss.xyz. And when I stopped making those statements, I can't afford, I don't have time, and when I replaced that with how can I? See this house right here? After I made that switch, I was able to buy that house in cash after being almost homeless and no income, no job, no nothing whatsoever. All it took was making that pivotal switch in my brain. I went from poor and lazy in my brain to rich and creative in my brain, which eventually translated into my life outside of my brain, which is stuff like being able to buy my house in cash, fire my boss, being able to travel, completely detaching myself from the stupid chains that bound me to the dollar. It was all that mental switch in my head. So I come to you from a place of incredible standing that you can do it too, so long as you ditch your ego and you stop justifying why you don't think you have time or money or you can't do this or that. So get out of the self-protection business, because that doesn't work anyway. Don't justify being poor and lazy and broke and dumb and all these things. Justify why, hey, I've got human potential. Let's make that potential a reality. How can I solve these problems? And then go for it. And if you need a good place to start, check out my website, fireyourboss.xyz, and get started. And feel free to share this with people. Bye for now.